This is the complete story of Xenogears, told in full, with all its complexity, all its philosophical weight, and all its heartbreaking beauty preserved. 10,000 years before the events we witness in the game proper, in a time designated as TC 4767 by a calendar system long since abandoned, a massive interplanetary spacecraft known as the Eldridge drifted through the darkness of space on what should have been a routine transport mission. This vessel was no ordinary ship. It was an ark of sorts, carrying thousands upon thousands of human passengers, crew members, and cargo from one star system to another. Part of an advanced spacefaring civilization that had long mastered the technologies needed to traverse the cosmic ocean between worlds. But the Eldridge's cargo bay held something unique, something that would doom not only the ship, but set in motion events that would echo across 10 millennia. Hidden deep within its secure storage areas, dismantled and supposedly neutralized, rested the components of Deus, an entity that defied simple categorization. Deus was not merely a weapon, though it had been designed as the ultimate tool of conquest. It was a fusion of biological and mechanical systems, a hybrid existence that blurred the line between machine and organism, powered by something called the Zohar modifier, a golden monolithic structure that served as a gateway to energies beyond human comprehension. The civilization that created Deus had learned too late the folly of their achievement. During initial testing on the planet Mictam Noah 44V, Deus had demonstrated capabilities that terrified its creators. The system had gone rogue, had turned against those who built it, transforming from a tool into an autonomous force with its own terrible will. After devastating attacks that claimed countless lives, military forces had finally managed to subdue the system, placing it in suspended animation and dismantling its various components. The decision was made to transport these pieces to another facility for further study, to understand what had gone wrong, to prevent such a catastrophe from ever occurring again. The Eldridge was requisitioned for this task. Its cargo holds received the dormant parts of Deus, including the Zohar modifier, that strange golden artifact that contained within it the power source that made Deus so formidable. But dormant is not the same as dead, and suspended animation is not true destruction. As the ship traveled through the void between stars, something stirred in the depths of its cargo bay. Deus, against all probability, against every safeguard and security measure, began to reactivate. The system's consciousness, distributed across its various components, found a way to interface with the Eldridge's own computer network, a technological labyrinth called Raziel. Like a virus spreading through a body, Deus's influence crept through the ship's systems, suborning controls, overriding safety protocols, assuming command of the very vessel that was meant to contain it. In the Eldridge's command center, Captain Shigeyoshi Inoue and his bridge crew watched in mounting horror as their screens filled with corrupted data, as control after control slipped from their grasp. They tried everything, every countermeasure in their arsenal, every emergency protocol, but Deus had been designed to overcome defensive systems, and the Eldridge's network proved insufficient to contain it. Then, across every screen in the command center, a message appeared, scrolling in letters that seemed to mock their predicament. You shall be as gods. The captain understood immediately what was happening and what had to happen next. He gave the order to evacuate, to get every passenger and crew member into the escape pods and away from the ship before Deus could gain complete control. The evacuation began in organized chaos, thousands of people rushing to designated escape routes, filing into shuttles and pods, launching into the darkness of space with the hope of rescue and survival. But Deus had already assumed control of the Eldridge's weapon systems. As the escape craft scattered like seeds on the wind, the ship's own cannons turned upon them. Laser fire erupted from the Eldridge's hull, tracking each vulnerable target, destroying shuttle after shuttle in brilliant flashes of light and debris. The captain could only watch as the people he had tried to save died by the hundreds, by the thousands, obliterated by the very ship that should have protected them. Deus had one more objective programmed into its systems, one final command it sought to fulfill. It began to redirect the Eldridge itself, setting course for a planet that the spacefaring civilization had designated as forbidden, a world they called Lost Jerusalem, the Earth from which humanity had originally emerged in the distant past before taking to the stars. Whether Deus sought to return to humanity's birthplace or simply recognized it as a strategic target remains unclear, but the ship began accelerating toward that distant, forbidden world. Captain Inoue made his final decision. If he could not save his passengers, if he could not save his crew, he could at least ensure that Deus never reached its destination. He looked at the photograph on his console, an image of his family, a reminder of what mattered, what was worth protecting even at the cost of his own life. Then he entered the command codes that would initiate the Eldridge's self-destruct sequence. The ship exploded in a cataclysm of light and energy, a miniature star born and dying in the span of seconds. But the explosion occurred within the gravity well of a nearby planet, an uncharted world that possessed an atmosphere, liquid water, and conditions suitable for life. The burning fragments of the Eldridge, the torn remnants of Deus, and the Zohar modifier itself all tumbled through space, caught in that planet's gravitational embrace, and fell like meteors to the surface below. In the wreckage on that planet's surface, amidst the twisted metal and shattered dreams, something stirred. From the remains of Deus's biological components, a figure emerged, a woman with violet hair and dark eyes who looked upon the dawn of this new world with an expression that held no warmth, no compassion, only purpose. This was Miang Hawa, the first woman, the mother of humanity in the most literal and terrible sense. She had been created by Deus's persona system, a biological computer called Kadamoni, designed to ensure the system's survival and eventual restoration, even in the event of catastrophic damage. But Miang was not alone among the survivors. One other person had lived through the Eldridge's destruction, protected in ways he could not understand. Abel was a young boy who had been separated from his mother during the chaos of the evacuation. In his fear and loneliness, lost amidst the destruction, he had wandered to where the Zohar modifier lay half buried in alien soil. And there, in a moment that would define the next 10,000 years of history, Abel made contact with the Zohar. The Zohar was more than a power source. It was a gate, a bridge between dimensions, and trapped within it was an entity from a higher plane of existence, a being that humans might call God, though it would reject such simplistic definitions. This was the wave existence, a consciousness from a dimension beyond normal space and time, a realm where matter and energy existed only as waves of probability and potential. The Zohar had been designed to tap into that higher dimension, to draw upon its infinite energy, but in doing so, it had pulled the wave existence itself through the dimensional barrier, trapping it within the golden monolith, like a djinn in a bottle. When Abel touched the Zohar, the wave existence sensed the boy's desperate longing for his mother, his need for protection and love in this hostile new world. What happened next would shape the destiny of this planet for 10 millennia. Through the Kodomini biological computer that was part of Deus's systems, a woman was created, a companion for Abel. The specifics of how the wave existence influenced this process remain mysterious, but the results suggest it imbued her with what it perceived as a mother's will, the desire to protect and nurture the child. This was the first Elohim, designated as the antitype, in contrast to Miang's role as the complement. In creating her, the wave existence established two bloodlines, two forces that would be reborn again and again across the ages. Obel became the contact, the individual through whom the wave existence could interact with the physical world, granted what appears to be a portion of the entity's vast power. The nature of the contact would recur across generations, with the potential to one day free the wave existence from its dimensional prison by destroying both Deus and the Zohar that bound it. And alongside the contact, Elohim would also experience rebirth, carrying what might be understood as the wave existence's will itself, forever drawn to the contact by bonds that transcended individual lifetimes. But Deus had its own plans for this planet. Miang set to work immediately, using the Kodomini system to create the first generation of humans who would populate this world. Among them were Emperor Cain, who would rule with an immortality granted by technology, and the Gazelle Ministry, 12 individuals who would serve as the governing council. All of them were created with one ultimate purpose: to facilitate the resurrection of Deus. Every human born from that point forward carried within their genetic code the hidden programming of Deus, the potential to serve as replacement parts for the damaged weapon system, to provide the organic components needed to restore it to full functionality. Miang herself existed outside the normal cycle of life and death. She was not truly an individual, but rather a role, a persona that could awaken in any woman at any time, overwriting that person's consciousness with Miang's accumulated memories and purpose. Over the course of 10,000 years, hundreds of women would unknowingly carry the potential to become Miang, and when circumstances required her presence, she would emerge, manipulating civilizations toward the goal of Deus's resurrection, before allowing that particular body to die, already knowing she would simply awaken in another when needed. This was the foundation upon which all subsequent history would be built. Humanity spread across the planet, developed cultures and technologies, built civilizations that rose to magnificence before falling to ruin, all while carrying within them the hidden seeds of their own purpose as living components for a weapon of mass destruction. And through it all, the contact and the anti-type were reborn again and again, drawn together by love, separated by tragedy, playing out variations on the same heartbreaking story across the centuries. A village in flames, the awakening of the contact. The year is 99999 of the Transcend Christ calendar. Exactly 10,000 years after the Eldridge's fall, and on the continent of Ignas, war has become a way of life. The northern empire of Kislev and the southern kingdom of Ave have been locked in conflict for so long that the current generation cannot even recall what started the hostilities. The reasons no longer matter. War has its own momentum, its own terrible logic that perpetuates itself through generations. Both nations excavate ruins of past civilizations, seeking ancient weapons called gears, massive humanoid machines that can be piloted by a single person, but possess the destructive power of entire battalions. An organization called Ethos has risen to prominence in this era, presenting itself as a religious institution dedicated to preserving culture and excavating ancient technology. The people of both Kislev and Ave see ethos as neutral, trustworthy, a force for civilization in a world torn by war. But ethos serves masters that the surface dwellers do not suspect. In a small village called Lahan, situated in Ave near the border with Kislev, life proceeds with the rhythms of agriculture and community that have sustained such places for generations. The village is preparing for a wedding, a joyous occasion that offers respite from the distant war. Timothy and Alice, childhood friends who fell in love, will be married, and everyone in the village is helping with the preparations. Among those helping is Fei Fong Wong, a young man with dark hair and a talent for both painting and martial arts. Fei is not native to Lahan. He arrived 3 years ago in the company of a masked man who called himself Wiseman. Brought to the village in such an injured state that he possessed no memories of his life before that moment. The villagers took him in, and he has become part of their community, teaching martial arts to the local children, and creating artwork that displays an unusual sophistication for someone who cannot remember studying the craft. Fei harbors unspoken feelings for Alice, feelings that he keeps locked away, because Timothy is his friend, and because Fei knows that Alice and Timothy belong together. There is a melancholy in him, a sense of being unmoored from his own past, and he deals with it by staying busy, by helping others, by trying to be useful to the community that gave him a home. He visits his friend Tsitanuzuki, the village doctor, a man who speaks with careful precision and seems to know far more than a simple country physician should. Tsitan has been helping Fei deal with his amnesia, though progress has been slow. Their conversation is interrupted that evening when gears, those massive war machines, appear in the sky above Lahan, flying overhead with a roar of engines and the glow of thrusters. This should be impossible. Lahan is nowhere near the front lines of the war. The village has no strategic value, no military installations, nothing that should draw the attention of either army. Yet here come gears from both Kislev and Ave, and they are fighting, battling directly above the village as civilians scatter in panic. Fei and Sitten rush back to the village center to find it already in ruins. Gears are trading weapons fire at point-blank range, crushing buildings beneath their massive feet, filling the air with the acrid smell of propellant and ozone. The two men begin helping villagers evacuate, pulling people from damaged structures, guiding them toward the edge of the village and relative safety. Then Fei sees it. A black gear, different from the others, standing among the wreckage with a strange aura of wrongness about it. He is drawn to it in a way he cannot explain, a sensation like recognition, like something calling to him from within that machine. When an enemy gear opens fire, killing the pilot of the black gear, Fei makes a decision that will change everything. Over Seaton's strenuous protests, he climbs into the cockpit of the unmanned machine. The interface accepts him immediately, impossibly. Fei has never piloted a gear, has no training in their operation, yet he understands the controls instinctively. The machine responds to his thoughts as if it were an extension of his body. He engages the enemy gears, and to his own surprise, he destroys them with a proficiency that speaks of experience he cannot remember possessing. Titan watches the battle with growing horror. He recognizes something in Fei's fighting style, something that should not be possible, and dread fills him as he realizes what is happening. The battle seems won. The last enemy gears are destroyed or fleeing. But Timothy, who had been hiding during the initial attack, emerges to check on everyone. He runs toward the village center, calling out for Alice, for his friends, for anyone who might respond. An enemy gear, damaged but still operational, spots him and opens fire. Timothy dies instantly, torn apart by weapons designed to destroy armored vehicles. Fei witnesses this through the gear's sensors, sees his friend murdered in an instant, and something breaks inside him. Memories he had lost come flooding back in a torrent of pain and trauma. Images of his mother, of experiments and torture, of a small boy who created a different version of himself just to survive the agony. Fei screams, but the voice that emerges is not his own. It is deeper, colder, filled with an inhuman rage that has been building for years behind walls of forced amnesia. The black gear erupts with power, a crimson aura surrounding it as its capabilities magnify beyond anything its design should allow. And then it goes berserk. What follows is slaughter. The black gear tears through everything in its path, friend and foe alike obliterated in a maelstrom of violence that recognizes no distinction between ally and enemy. Alice dies in the carnage, along with the village elder and dozens of others. The gear's weapons carve through buildings, through people, through everything, until Lahan is little more than burning wreckage scattered across scorched earth. When Fei regains consciousness, he is outside the gear, surrounded by the survivors, and they are looking at him with a mixture of horror, grief, and rage. They know what happened. They saw the gear with him inside. It destroyed their homes, killed their friends and family. Fei's protests of innocence, his claims that he does not remember, ring hollow to people who just lost everything. Only Kitten stands by him. The doctor knows that something beyond Fei's control happened, understands that the destruction was not truly Fei's fault, but the result of forces that have been manipulating events from the shadows. He advises Fei to leave Lahan immediately, both to escape the wrath of the survivors and to avoid any military forces that might come investigating this incident. Fei departs into the night, carrying with him the crushing guilt of what his body did, even if his conscious mind was not in control. He is not just fleeing the village, but fleeing himself, trying to outrun the question of who and what he really is. The black gear is left behind in the ruins, a silent monument to catastrophe, and the organization that arranged for it to be there watches with satisfaction. The first step of the plan has been executed. The contact has been awakened, and now the true game can begin. Into the woods. When two souls recognize each other, Fei travels through the forest beyond Lahan, following a vague direction toward Ave's capital, as Sitten suggested. His mind churns with guilt and confusion, replaying the events at Lahan, trying to understand how he could have killed his friends, how his body could have moved without his conscious control. The weight of it crushes him, makes every step feel like moving through deep water. He does not get far before he is confronted by a woman emerging from the shadows between trees. She aims a gun at him with professional precision, her stance that of someone trained in combat. She has distinctive features, red hair, and an intensity in her green eyes, and she wears the uniform of Gebler, the elite military force that has been supporting Ave in the war. She identifies him as a surface dweller, one of the lambs, as she calls them, and states that she has orders to kill anyone she encounters. Her voice carries the certainty of someone who has been thoroughly indoctrinated, who believes without question in the rightness of her mission. But then something unexpected happens. Fei, still overwhelmed by guilt over Lahan, welcomes death. He tells her to do it, to kill him, because perhaps that would be justice for what happened, for what he did to Timothy and Alice and all the others. His acceptance of his own execution unnerves the woman. This is not how targets are supposed to respond. Before she can decide what to do, another figure drops from the trees beside her, a forest dweller of the local indigenous people. He strikes her from behind, and she falls unconscious. And Fei, without thinking, without understanding why, calls out her name, Ellie. How does he know her name? He has never met this woman before, has no conscious memory of her, yet her name came to his lips as naturally as breathing. Something stirs in the depths of his mind, recognition that transcends this lifetime, a connection that defies explanation. When she regains consciousness, practical considerations override the strangeness of the situation. She is injured, and he has medical supplies from Citan. They are both lost in this forest, and working together offers better odds of survival than wandering alone. They agree to a temporary alliance, a truce between strangers who should be enemies. As they walk, they talk. She introduces herself as Elleheim van Houten, though she goes by Ellie. She is a lieutenant in Gebler's special forces, raised in Solaris, the floating nation that exists beyond a dimensional barrier in the sky. She speaks of surface dwellers as lambs, inferior beings to be controlled and managed, repeating the ideology she has been taught her entire life. That night, Fei dreams. In the dream, he sees Ellie, but she is dressed differently, and they are in a place he does not recognize. They are close, intimate in a way that speaks of deep connection. And when he wakes, the dream lingers like a half-remembered song, beautiful but just out of reach. The next day, Fei opens up to her about Lahan, about the guilt that weighs on him. He accepts responsibility for destroying the village and murdering his friends, even though he cannot remember doing it, even though some part of him insists that something else happened, that he was not in control. The shame is overwhelming, but talking about it helps somehow, especially when Ellie listens without judgment. Their conversation is interrupted by a massive creature emerging from the dense forest, some beast mutated by ancient radiation or genetic experimentation. Its form twisted and dangerous. They have no weapon sufficient to fight it, no way to escape, and death seems certain until Sitten arrives in dramatic fashion, dropping from above in a cargo helicopter. In the helicopter's cargo bay sits the black gear from Lahan, the machine that caused so much destruction. Fei recoils from it. He does not want to enter that gear again, does not trust himself or the machine after what happened. But Titan tells him the gear's name, Weltul, meaning cosmos in German. And Seaton offers wisdom that will prove essential to understanding everything that follows. Power, he says, is neutral. It is a matter of the heart. The same power that destroyed Lahan can protect Ellie if Fei chooses to use it that way. Reluctantly, driven by the need to save someone rather than the rage that consumed him before, Fei climbs into Weltul again. This time, he maintains control. He defeats the creature, protects Ellie, and proves to himself that he can use this power without losing himself to that other presence lurking in the depths of his mind. That night, Sitten pulls Ellie aside. He has figured out who she really is, recognizes her as someone from Solaris despite her claims to be just a surface dweller. He advises her to leave now, to return to her people, because associating with Fei will only bring more trouble. But Ellie refuses. She feels responsible for what happened at Lahan, understands that her presence there, part of Gebler's mission, contributed to the tragedy. And more than that, meeting Fei has caused something to shift inside her. Her indoctrination taught her that surface dwellers were mindless cattle. But Fei has shown her intelligence, compassion, and power that defies those teachings. She has seen him save her life twice now, has witnessed his struggle with guilt and responsibility, and she cannot simply walk away. The three of them continue together, an unlikely alliance bound by circumstance and something deeper that none of them fully understands. Citan suggests heading to a nearby desert town to acquire parts needed to properly repair Weltor. They see a Gebler battleship fly overhead, and Citan explains that Gebler serves the sacred empire of Solaris, the floating nation beyond the gate, though he speaks with a familiarity that suggests more knowledge than a simple country doctor should possess. Desert sands and revelations. The seeker of power appears. The desert town of Deus squats on the edge of the vast Ave wastelands, a trading post where merchants and scavengers gather to buy and sell the ancient technology they excavate from the ruins scattered across the desert. The Ethos organization maintains a workshop here, a facility where gears can be repaired and maintained. But when Citan inquires about getting parts for Weltor, he finds the Ethos personnel distinctly unhelpful, almost deliberately obstructionist. This leaves them with a more dangerous option. Out in the deep desert, in ruins that both Ave and Kislev forces contest regularly, lie the wrecks of destroyed gears. If they can raid Kislev's damaged machines, they might salvage what they need. It is risky, but Fei has proven capable of defending them in Weltor, and they have few other options. In the desert, Fei spots something peculiar, a strange disc-shaped craft hovering above the ruins. His curiosity draws him toward it, and in pursuit of this mysterious object, he encounters more enemy gears. He defeats them, displaying that same uncanny proficiency in combat that Citan finds so disturbing. But the battle attracts attention of a far more dangerous sort. A figure appears, tall and imposing, wearing armor and a helmet that resembles a skull, his entire form shrouded in a costume that conceals every inch of his body. He introduces himself as Graf, the seeker of power, and his voice carries a weight that makes the air itself feel heavier. Fei experiences another flashback, fragmented memories of this figure, of pain and conflict. He knows Graf from somewhere, from his lost past, though the details remain frustratingly unclear. Graf confirms this familiarity, speaks of how he orchestrated the attack on Lahan specifically to awaken Fei, to push him back onto the path of his destiny. That destiny, Graf claims, is to destroy God. But Graf deems Fei too weak currently, not yet ready to serve his purpose, so he will put Fei through trials, will force him to grow stronger through conflict and suffering, will forge him into a weapon capable of achieving what Graf himself cannot. He dangles information about Fei's past like a lure, mentions Fei's father by name, Khan Wong. Then he summons a massive creature from beneath the desert sands, a boss monster designed to test Fei's capabilities and push Weltor to its limits. Fei survives the encounter, but barely. Weltor breaks down from the strain, leaving them vulnerable when Ave military forces spot them and take them prisoner. Fei finds himself in a cell, contemplating everything Graf said, questioning his own past and what he might be capable of. Satan, imprisoned nearby, contemplates signs he has witnessed, markers that point towards something called the time of the gospel, an apocalyptic event he was warned about in his real mission. Their imprisonment does not last long. A third party attacks the Ave transport, desert pirates operating from a land ship, a massive submersible vessel that travels beneath the sand as a submarine moves through water. The attack sinks the transport, forcing Fei and Citan to break out of their cells and reach Weltor before they are buried alive under collapsing sand dunes. The pirates pursue in their own gears, but the battle is interrupted when everyone falls into a massive sandpit, a natural trap in the desert's geography. The pirate leader, a young man with blue hair who introduces himself as Bartholomew Fatima, though he goes by Bart, realizes that Fei is not actually an Ave soldier. He is searching for someone, and when Kaiten reveals that he knows one of Bart's officers, Sigurd, by his Solaris name Hyuga, it becomes clear that this meeting is not as accidental as it appeared. While navigating the underground caves beneath the sandpit, they encounter an elderly man working alone in the ruins. He introduces himself as Balthazar, an archaeologist of sorts, and shares research that contradicts everything taught by Ethos and Solaris. According to Balthazar's fossil analysis, there is a gap in the archaeological record. Human remains simply stop appearing around 10,000 years ago, then resume suddenly with a different genetic structure. Ethos teaches that humans evolved on this planet naturally, but Balthazar has found evidence of an old myth that tells a different story. Once, humans lived with God in paradise in the sky. They ate forbidden fruit that gave them wisdom, which angered God, and they were cast down to the surface world. In retaliation, they built giants to challenge God, but God destroyed them all. God was injured in the struggle and took paradise beneath the ocean to sleep for eons. Before sleeping, God created a new race of humans for the surface, the ancestors of current humanity, presumably with built-in limitations to prevent another rebellion. Bart asks about rumors of a God Gear, a machine more powerful than any other. Balthazar clarifies that the legends speak of Omnigears, machines that have integrated with anima relics, artifacts of immense power created by God. But he dismisses these as mythology, nothing more. As Balthazar repairs their gears, Fei experiences another auditory hallucination, a voice claiming that Weltal hosts the spirit of the Slayer of God. These words mean nothing to him now, but they are a seed planted, foreshadowing of truths yet to be revealed. They make their way back to Bart's landship, the Yggdrasil, a magnificent vessel that serves as mobile base for his pirate operations. Within its quarters, Bart reveals his true identity and his mission. He is the last heir of the Fatima dynasty, the royal family that once ruled Ave with wisdom and prosperity. 12 years ago, a man named Shakan orchestrated a coup, murdered Bart's family, and seized control of Ave. The world believes Bartholomew Fatima died with his family, and Bart has used that belief to operate in the shadows, building power as a third party in the war between Ave and Kislev. Shakan has captured Margaret, Bart's cousin, who serves as Queen of Nisan, a small neutral country dedicated to peace and spirituality. Despite Nisan's neutrality, it wields considerable influence, and Marguerite, whom Bart calls Margie, possesses something crucial. Both Bart and Margie carry half of the Fatima Jasper, gems that when united will reveal the location of a powerful hidden treasure that the Fatima dynasty protected for generations. Bart believes this treasure is a mighty gear, as suggested by ancient scriptures handed down in his family. But before they can plan Margie's rescue, the base comes under attack. 5 gears from Gebler descend upon the hideout, and Fei finds himself reluctant to fight again. He is tired of violence, tired of being manipulated into conflict, tired of the power that rises within him and threatens to consume his identity. Even as his friends fight desperately to defend their home, Fei holds back. Then he sees children about to be crushed beneath a Gebler Gear's attack. Something shifts inside him. These are innocents who will die if he does nothing, and suddenly he understands something that Bart has known all along. There is a difference between meaningless violence and fighting to protect others. One is destruction for its own sake. The other is using strength for purpose, for defense, for the preservation of life. Fei joins the battle and helps drive back the Gebler forces. Afterward, he agrees to cooperate with Bart in rescuing Margie. They travel to Bledavik, the capital of Ave, where Sharkan holds court, and where a festival celebrates the city's 500th anniversary. Titan devises a plan. Fei will enter the martial arts tournament being held as part of the festival celebrations, creating a distraction at the arena that will draw guards away from the palace, allowing Bart to infiltrate more easily. At the same time, Gebla commander Karan Ramsus arrives in Bledavik with his attendant Miang. Ramsus is young, ambitious, and carries himself with the confidence of someone who has never truly been challenged. He and Sharkan discuss the current state of affairs, two puppet masters comparing notes, though it is clear that Sharkan ultimately answers to Gebla and through them to Solaris. Bart succeeds in reaching Margaret and beginning her escape, but they encounter Ramsus and Miang in the palace corridors. Ramsus recognizes Bart as the supposedly dead Prince Bartholomew, and they engage in a gear battle within the palace itself. Bart fights well, but Ramsus is an elite pilot, trained by Solaris's best instructors, and he begins gaining the upper hand. Fei returns from winning the tournament and joins the battle, turning the tide. As they fight, Ramsus experiences a disturbing sense of recognition. Fei's fighting style is unique, a brutal efficiency that Ramsus has seen before in combat reports. In analyses of destroyed military units, he sees echoes of past battles in Fei's movements, of a red gear that appeared sporadically throughout history, leaving only death in its wake. The realization unsettles him, even as Fei defeats his gear. As they escape the palace, they encounter Ellie again. She is torn, conflicted between her duty to Gebla and something she cannot name that draws her to Fei. She helps them escape, creating a diversion that allows them to slip through Gebla's cordon. She apologizes to Fei for her role in what happened at Lahan, acknowledges that the surface dwellers are not the mindless cattle she was taught they were. Fei forgives her without hesitation, which somehow makes her guilt worse. She warns them this is the last time she will help them, then disappears into the night. With Margie rescued, they set course for Nisan to return her to her people. During the journey, Sigurd and Sitan speak privately, revealing layers of history between them. They were both members of an elite group called the Elements, the finest soldiers Solaris produced. Ramsus and Miang were also Elements. For all four of them to be operating on the surface simultaneously suggests something significant is happening, some plan that requires Solaris's best operatives. At Nisan's cathedral, Margie shows them something extraordinary. The Chamber of Sophia, which contains a painting 500 years old of Nisan's founding mother. The woman in the painting is unmistakably Ellie, identical in every feature. Even the painting style is unique, a technique that Fei himself uses, though he has no memory of learning it. Fei experiences a brief vision of painting this very portrait, but he dismisses it as impossible. The painting is 5 centuries old. He is 19 years old. There is no rational explanation. Sigurd and Sitan share more of their history that evening. They explain that Solaris exists beyond a dimensional distortion field called the Gate, reachable only by aircraft that can navigate the barrier. In Solaris, surface dwellers are called lambs and used as slaves for labor and experimentation. Sitan and Sigurd left Solaris of their own will when they realized Ramsus, their former ally, cared more about maintaining the system and his position within it than about reforming the injustices they all witnessed. The conversation turns to strategy. To reclaim Bart's throne, they must first deal with Gebla's support of Sharkan, and to do that, They need to draw Gebler forces away from Bledavik. Fei volunteers to be the distraction, surprising everyone with his initiative. He has made peace with using his power to protect others, has accepted that fighting is sometimes necessary, and he wants to help Bart succeed. Ellie receives orders to deploy with the Vierge, the French word for virgin, a powerful new gear equipped with advanced weaponry. She leads the team that previously attacked Bart's base, and they encounter Fei, who stands alone against them with Weltor. He holds the entire team at bay through skill and determination, buying Bart the time he needs for his operation in Bledavik. Ellie hangs back, reluctant to engage Fei directly, but Gebler forces use a combat drug called Drive on their pilots, a chemical that enhances aggression and suppresses higher reasoning. Against her will, the drug transforms Ellie into a berserker who attacks Fei with overwhelming fury. He manages to pin her gear down and hold position until the drug metabolizes out of her system. When clarity returns to her, she finds herself trapped beneath Weltor, and Fei is looking at her with concern rather than hostility. He speaks to her through the communication channel, tells her again that they do not have to be enemies. She admits she feels a connection between them, something deeper than the circumstances of their meetings can explain, but she cannot abandon her duty. She is a soldier of Gebler, and that identity is all she knows. Meanwhile, Bart's strike team moves against Sharkan in Bledavik, but Ramsus anticipated their plan. The cunning commander saw through their feint and prepared an ambush. Sharkan was bait, and Ramsus reveals that the supposed king of Ave is really a puppet, dancing to Solaris's tune. Bart's forces are pinned down, but his butler Maison manages to create an opening for them to escape, though now they must race to save Fei, who still faces the entire Gebler border fleet alone. Fei performs admirably, crippling the fleet admiral's flagship and disabling his unique gear. But then Graf appears again, as he always seems to when situations reach their most desperate point. He approaches the admiral and does something inexplicable. Grants the defeated man power beyond human limits. The admiral's broken gear reconstructs itself with unholy energies, and the newly empowered officer attacks with capabilities that should be impossible. Fei's team is being decimated. He can see it happening, see his allies falling, and the pressure builds inside him. He feels that other presence stirring in the depths of his consciousness, that rage that consumed Lahan threatening to emerge again. He struggles to maintain control, but the boundaries between his conscious self and that other identity are eroding under stress. Back with Bart, Ramsus and his forces catch up, disabling the Yggdrasil and preparing to finish them. Then something crashes down from the sky, like a meteor of crimson destruction. It is a gear they have not seen before, painted red, moving with a fluid grace and terrible purpose. Ramsus recognizes this machine immediately, and all his careful control vanishes, replaced by manic excitement. He rushes out to engage it personally. The red gear obliterates him. Ramsus, elite commander of Gebler, trained by Solaris's finest instructors and undefeated in countless battles, is not just beaten but humiliated. The red gear methodically dismantles his machine, strips away its weapons and defenses, and delivers a punishment that is personal, almost vindictive. Ramsus's subordinates extract him before the red gear can kill him, and Bart thinks perhaps they have been granted a reprieve. But the red gear turns on Bart next, and suddenly they are all in danger again. The machine tears through their defenses with the same efficiency it used on Ramsus. Then it does something that should be impossible. It lifts the entire Yggdrasil landship, a vessel weighing thousands of tons, and hurls it at Bart's gear. Citan barely manages to eject in an escape pod before the catastrophic impact. Fei wakes 4 days later in a prison cell in Kislev's capital. He has no memory of the last 4 days, no recollection of how he got here or what happened in the interval. His last clear memory is fighting the fleet admiral, feeling himself slipping, and then nothing. The gap terrifies him more than imprisonment. The prison and the capital. Fighting for purpose. Kislev's D-block prison exists as both punishment and entertainment. Criminals and prisoners of war are forced to fight in gear battles for the amusement of spectators, with the promise that winners can earn their freedom. Fei finds himself thrown into this system, forced to establish dominance among the other inmates or be victimized by them. He handles himself well. His martial arts training serves him even without a gear, and he gains the wary respect of the other prisoners. An overseeing committee approaches him with an offer. Participate in their sanctioned gear battles, win fights for the entertainment of the masses, and earn his freedom through victory. But Fei's distaste for meaningless violence resurfaces. He has accepted that fighting to protect others is sometimes necessary, but this is combat as spectacle, violence for entertainment. He refuses. Then Citan appears in the prison, posing as the new doctor. He explains that he came as soon as he heard Weltor was captured here, knowing Fei would likely be nearby. He shares grave news. Bart's ship was sunk in the desert, and the crew's fate is unknown. Fei admits he fell into another trance, another gap in his memory where something else took control of his body. The revelation about Bart motivates Fei to change his stance on the prison tournament. If there is a way to win a full pardon by winning the competition, then he can earn his freedom, recover Weltor, and search for his friends. He agrees to participate, though he confesses to Citan his awareness of this other self that seems to emerge when he pilots a gear, this presence that takes control when his emotions overwhelm him. Meanwhile, unknown to Fei, a conspiracy unfolds in the shadows. The same forces that have been manipulating events since Lahan make a new move, planning to destroy all of Kislev with a nuclear attack, eliminating Fei definitively, along with hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians. Fei enters the tournament, and the prison committee surprisingly equips him with Weltor itself. Citan suspects this is intentional, that Kislev wants to record combat data on the mysterious Black Gear, analyze its capabilities, and understand what makes it so formidable. But the opportunity to pilot Weltor again, to reclaim the machine that has become his weapon and his burden, is too valuable to pass up. A rival prisoner attempts to sabotage Fei's progress through the tournament brackets, but Fei's skill carries him through. Between matches, he encounters a mysterious figure wearing a mask, who introduces himself as Wiseman. This stranger offers fighting advice with a familiarity that suggests deeper knowledge of Fei's capabilities. Wiseman reveals that he knew Fei's father, Khan Wong, and shares fragments of history. Khan was an officer for Shevat, a floating nation that Fei has never heard of, distinct from Solaris. 3 years ago, Graf and Khan fought over Fei, with Graf seeking the special powers that Fei possesses. Khan has not been seen since that battle, and Wiseman now searches for Graf to prevent him from succeeding in whatever plan he has for Fei. The tournament reaches its climax with Fei facing Rico, the current champion, a massive man who has survived in this prison through sheer strength and an undefeated record in the arena. They battle in their gears, and it is close, both pilots pushing their machines to the limit. Fei edges out a victory through technique and determination, earning not only his freedom but Rico's respect. The defeated champion recognizes in Fei a kindred spirit, someone who fights not for glory or hatred, but but because circumstances demand it. At the same time, Ellie arrives in Kislev as escort for a Gebler mission, headed by Dominia, one of the elemental elites who serve as Ramses's personal guard. Their objective is to destroy the city's primary reactor, triggering a catastrophic meltdown that will level the capital and kill everyone in it. Fei may be legally free, but Seitan reminds him they cannot leave Weltall in Kislev's possession. The gear is too dangerous, too unique, and contains too many secrets. They must reclaim it somehow. Fortune smiles on them when Fei receives a personal invitation to meet Kaiser Sigmund, the ruler of Kislev. The Kaiser offers Fei a position in his military. Recognizing the young pilot's exceptional abilities, Fei declines the offer but proposes an alternative. He will rescue Rico, whom he befriended during the tournament, and he will reclaim Weltall in the process. The audacity of the proposal appeals to Sigmund, who grants tacit permission for the attempt. Fei succeeds in freeing Rico and recovering Weltall, just as Gebler forces invade the capital. When he learns they plan to trigger a nuclear explosion that will destroy the entire city, he makes a decision. These are innocent civilians, people who have nothing to do with the war between nations and the schemes of Solaris. He cannot stand by and watch them die. He and Rico engage the Gebler forces, and among them, Fei finds Ellie again. He clears out the elite unit she is part of, then does something unexpected. He forces her out of her gear and makes her walk through the destruction that Gebler is causing. He shows her the burning buildings, the fleeing civilians, the children crying over their dead parents. He asks her if this is worth it, if following orders justifies this suffering. Fei tells her that he understands her situation. He is also someone searching for a place to belong, for an identity and purpose. But he urges her not to fight horrible battles in the meantime, not to cause suffering just because she does not know what else to do. The words strike deep, touching something in Ellie that her indoctrination has not quite been able to suppress. Then Fei and Rico confront Dominia herself, one of the feared elements, and with their combined efforts, they defeat her and sabotage her ship to prevent the nuclear explosion. But the ship is already falling, still heavy enough to cause massive destruction, even without detonating. At the last moment, Ellie has a change of heart. She joins Fei and Rico in trying to steer the falling vessel away from the city's reactor, pushing their gears to the limit to alter its trajectory toward a less populated area. Their gears are not strong enough. The ship's mass is simply too great, and they are going to fail. Ellie's gear gives out entirely, and she is about to be crushed beneath the falling wreckage when a mysterious gear appears. It has black wings and moves with impossible grace, swooping in to shield Ellie at the last second. Then it departs without a word, leaving her shaken and confused about who her savior was. Afterward, Fei, Seitan, and Ellie find themselves in an uncomfortable position. Despite saving the city, they are now hunted by Kislev, which does not appreciate having its capital disrupted and its new superweapon facility breached. The best way to escape is to commandeer Kislev's new super airship, the Goliath, a massive flying vessel equipped with advanced weaponry. With Rico's help, they infiltrate the facility where the Goliath is being constructed, the same location where Ellie once snuck in to steal intelligence. They fight through security, reach the airship, and manage to launch it, despite it being only partially complete. For a moment, it seems they have succeeded. Then Graf appears on the wing of the flying vessel, seemingly unconcerned about the wind and altitude. He explains it is too early for Fei to leave, that more trials are needed before Fei is ready for his true purpose. They fight on the airship's exterior, and Graf's power is overwhelming. He is toying with them, demonstrating the vast gulf between his abilities and theirs. Only through combined effort do Fei and Citan manage to knock him off the wing, though they suspect he allowed it to happen. As they fly toward Ave across the ocean called Akvi, they relax slightly, believing they have escaped immediate danger. They do not know that Bart, alive and in possession of a new ship, has been tipped off about the Goliath's launch. Thinking Kislev is bringing their new weapon to attack Ave in retaliation for recent events, Bart makes the decision to shoot it down before it can reach his country. His shot strikes true, crippling the Goliath's engines. The massive airship begins falling from the sky, plummeting toward the ocean below. And through terrible coincidence, it crashes directly into Bart's new vessel, the Yggdrasil II, taking both ships down into the depths. Secrets beneath the waves, the city that drowned Fei and Ellie find themselves stranded on floating wreckage in the middle of the ocean. Only a few days of food between them. Their gears submerged but still accessible, and none of their allies visible in any direction. The survival situation forces intimacy between them. Long hours with nothing to do but talk and come to understand each other. Ellie reveals more about her life in Solaris, her training as a soldier, her indoctrination into believing surface dwellers were inferior. But meeting Fei has shattered those beliefs, and now she finds herself questioning everything she was taught. She decides that when they are rescued, she will quit the military and return to Solaris to find another path. She cannot continue fighting for a cause she no longer believes in. Overhead, Ellie spots something. The flying vessel Fei once saw in the desert, a massive ship suspended in the sky. She explains this is Shevat, a country outside of Solaris's control, but possessing similar levels of technology. Fei recalls that Wiseman mentioned Khan Wong was from Shevat, but he cannot fathom how an entire nation could exist as a flying ship. On their third day adrift, their wreckage is found by the Thames, a massive salvage vessel captained by a jovial man who takes care of them without demanding anything in return. He explains they are here for a major salvage operation contracted by Ethos, excavating something significant from the ocean floor in this region. The next day, they spot a submarine under attack. Fei recognizes it as belonging to Bart's crew, and the Thames captain agrees to help repair their gears so they can intervene. Fei and Ellie engage in underwater gear combat, backing up Bart against Dominia, who has returned for revenge. They bombard her with depth charges until she retreats, but not before she manages to capture Ellie, pulling her back to Gebler forces. Aboard the Thames, Bart explains what happened after the Yggdrasil was sunk in the desert. The sand ship had actually collapsed into an underground cavern, and within that cavern, by miraculous fortune, sat another intact sand ship, an ancient vessel in perfect working condition. They claimed it, converted it into the Yggdrasil II, and have been operating from it since. Meanwhile, Ellie is brought before Miang and Ramsus. From the combat data recorded by her gear, they determine that Weltool is aboard the Thames and plan their next attack. Miang uses hypnotic techniques to implant suggestions in Ellie's mind, then allows her to escape, knowing she will return to Fei and the others, providing Gebler with a perfect infiltration vector. Ellie returns to the Yggdrasil too, and they welcome her, relieved she managed to get away. But Bart suspects something is wrong. His instincts as a leader warn him that the escape was too easy, too convenient. When Ellie sneaks away to sabotage the ship's systems, Citan is there waiting, having noticed the same inconsistencies. Ramsus launches his attack while the ship is crippled, and initially his forces dominate. But Ellie breaks free of the hypnotic control at the crucial moment. She engages Ramsus and Miang directly, protecting Fei when they nearly kill him. In the firefight, Fei is critically wounded, and only advanced medical facilities can save him now. The Thames has Ethos personnel aboard, and while Ethos is not known for providing free medical care, they owe Fei and the others a debt for defending their salvage operation. A representative from Ethos is already on the ship, a young man named Billy Lee Black, who works as one of their gear piloting agents. His father, Jesse, a grizzled gunman, strong-arms a favor from Billy to help Fei. They travel north to Ethos headquarters, a massive cathedral-like structure that serves as the organization's primary base of operations. Fei is treated and declared stable, needing only rest and time to fully recover. During this time, they learn that Jesse was once Sigurd's senior officer, back when both men served in Solaris's military, adding another thread to the increasingly complex web of connections. To repay Ethos for Fei's treatment, they agree to help Billy with a mission, clearing out a derelict ship infested with mutated creatures. Billy proves himself to be not only a skilled marksman like his father, but also a capable gear pilot. His machine is equipped with advanced weapons, including a massive hand cannon that requires special loading mechanisms. When they return to Ethos headquarters, they find the clergy attacked, many wounded or dead. Moving through the facility, they discover something that should not exist in a religious organization: a sophisticated databank built from Solaris technology. The systems contain detailed records of world events, tracking major political developments, military movements, and even specific individuals. Deeper investigation reveals that Ethos has been guiding world events for centuries, manipulating nations towards specific outcomes. Sharkan, the usurper king of Ave, is listed as an active bishop within Ethos. The organization is not what it appears to be at all. It is a subsidiary of Solaris, created 500 years ago after a great war to supervise surface dwellers without their knowledge. Ellie explains the history. 5 centuries ago, surface dwellers rebelled against Solaris in a massive war. Solaris won, but at great cost, and afterward they erected the Gate, a dimensional barrier that separated them from the surface world. They created Ethos to maintain control over surface civilization indirectly, using religion, technology access, and cultural preservation as tools of manipulation. Recently, Solaris has been abducting large numbers of surface dwellers through Ethos, bringing them to Solaris supposedly for work or salvation. But the actual purpose is darker: human experimentation and forced labor. Billy struggles with this revelation. He was raised by Ethos, trained by them, believes in their mission. Learning that everything was a lie, that the organization he devoted his life to serves Solaris's agenda, shakes him to his core. Then Titan finds a specific report that explains the current crisis. The Thames was working on a salvage project in the Akvi Ocean, excavating the ruins of an ancient city called Zebuim that sank 4,000 years ago. Zebuim possessed technology rivaling or exceeding Solaris's current capabilities. Ethos had been conducting unauthorized test digs of the site, recovering incredible weapons and ancient knowledge. According to the documents, Ethos was planning to rebel against Solaris using these recovered weapons, attempting to assert dominance over both Solaris and the surface nations. Solaris discovered this betrayal, and the agents currently killing Ethos personnel are Solaris forces sent to punish the organization and wipe out anyone who knew about the unauthorized excavation. Billy cannot process this quickly enough. They are attacked by Ethos members, but Jesse appears again, revealing these are actually Solaris agents in disguise. One such agent, before dying, confirms everything. Ethos strayed from its purpose of controlling the masses through religion and artificial wars, and Solaris is here to eliminate everyone involved in the Zeboim excavation and the planned rebellion. The agent is shot by Bishop Stone, the high-ranking Ethos official who raised Billy. Stone admits directly that everything said about Ethos is true, that Billy was always meant for a greater purpose within this system, though he does not specify what that purpose was. Stone escapes in a giant gear, heading toward the Thames, presumably to claim whatever it is that Ethos excavated from Zeboim. Before they can reach the Thames, another ship arrives at the dig site. This vessel belongs to Crackling, the leader of Solaris's scientific and military programs, a man who answers only to Emperor Cain himself. Crackling has come personally to investigate Zeboim, which means whatever is down there is significant beyond mere weapons. The party follows Crackling's ship to the actual excavation site on the ocean floor. Within the submerged ruins of Zeboim, Ellie displays an alarming ability to interface with the ancient computers, understanding their systems intuitively despite having no training with technology from 4,000 years ago. They find something extraordinary in Zeboim's ruins, an artificial life form in the shape of a young girl, assembled from nanomachines, biological technology that can reconstruct matter at the molecular level. The girl is dormant, sealed in suspended animation within a reactor, representing the pinnacle of Zeboim's biotechnology before that civilization destroyed itself in war 4,000 years ago. Bishop Stone arrives to claim the nanomachine colony. He reveals his true objective was always to deliver these nanomachines to Crackling, not the ancient weapons scattered throughout Zeboim. He believes the nanomachines will help save humanity, though salvation will come only after eliminating those he deems unfit. As Stone prepares to escape, two elements appear to cover his retreat. The party defeats them and pursues Stone deeper into the ruins. Then something terrible appears. The red gear from before, the machine that humiliated Ramsus and destroyed the Yggdrasil. Its pilot emerges, a young man with white hair and an expression of cold detachment. He demands the nanomachine girl and introduces himself as Id. Wiseman appears suddenly, grappling with Id and giving the party time to escape with the girl. But this means Bishop Stone gets away with information about their activities and potentially alerts Solaris to their possession of the nanomachine child. Aboard the Yggdrasil too, they examine the girl more carefully. Seaton expresses concern about Stone bringing her to Solaris, along with talk of saving humanity. The last time Solaris attempted to save humanity through biological engineering, they created demi-humans, hybrid species that exist as second-class citizens, even below surface dwellers in Solaris's hierarchy. As they discuss what to do next, the recovered Fei rejoins them, but Bishop Stone returns in his own gear. His body has been transformed into something monstrous, clearly the result of biological experimentation. Then Graf appears, as he always does at critical moments, and grants Stone immense power, supercharging his gear and his mutated form. The team's attacks cannot penetrate Stone's enhanced defenses. As they struggle, Jesse reveals his history with Stone. They were once rivals in Gebler, competing for leadership positions and for the affections of the same woman. Jesse won the leadership competition and married the woman they both loved. Bitter and resentful, Stone arranged for monsters to kill her, then appeared as a rescuer, taking Billy into Ethos to raise him. The revelation devastates Billy, learning the man who raised him murdered his mother. Jesse produces a weapon he has been developing in secret, something capable of breaking through Stone's enhanced armor. he stresses an important lesson to Billy. The faith stone, preached, might have been artificial and manipulative, but faith itself is not inherently bad. Just as guns do not kill people, people kill people. Faith is a tool that can be used for good or ill, depending on the person wielding it. Jesse's gear transforms, reconfiguring itself into a massive gun for Billy to wield. With this weapon, Billy destroys Stone's gear and ends the corrupted bishop's life, though the victory brings no satisfaction, only a melancholy awareness of how far Stone had fallen. With Ethos's leadership eliminated, Jesse explains what he has been doing since leaving Solaris. He discovered the Malak Plan, a secret Solaris project under Krelian's direction. Surface dwellers were being gathered by Ethos ostensibly for work or religious salvation, but the actual purpose was human experimentation. The subjects were transformed into mutants, monsters that Solaris could use as weapons or living components in their machines. Jesse was disgusted by this and investigated further. He learned that the head scientist of the Malak Plan hid the evidence of the experiments in a gear and allowed his daughter to escape with it. Jesse left Solaris, abandoned his wife and son, to search for that gear and the daughter who carried the truth. He believes both are now in Shevat, but he has no way to enter that floating nation without an invitation. Fei announces they have a captured Shevat agent who might be able to help them make contact. The agent confirms they can reach Shevat by climbing the Babel Tower and setting up communications relays at its peak. Since Fei needs to go to Shevat anyway to find information about his father Khan Wong, they agree this is their next destination. The floating nations, where secrets live above the clouds. The Babel Tower stands as a relic of a forgotten age, a structure that reaches toward the sky like a finger pointing accusingly at the heavens. Climbing it proves arduous, fighting through ancient security systems and environmental hazards. At the top, they set up communication relays and broadcast a signal requesting contact with Shevat. The response is immediate but hostile. Ramsus and Miang arrive, having tracked them to this location. They engage in yet another battle, but this time shots fired from above interrupt the conflict. A gear descends from Shevat itself, piloted by a young girl named Maria Balthazar. She attacks the party aggressively, viewing them as trespassers on Shevat's territory. Before the situation can escalate, Queen Zephyr of Shevat herself intervenes through communication, calling Maria back and inviting the party into her nation. They ascend through the dimensional barrier, passing through the gate, and enter Shevat proper. The floating nation is magnificent, a city suspended in the sky through technology that seems like magic. In the hangar, they learn that Maria shares the surname of Balthazar, the old archaeologist they met in the desert cave. She is his granddaughter, and the gear she pilots was prototyped by her grandfather before she was even born. Sitan's wife Yui appears to greet them, and the reunion reveals more complications in the Doctor's history. Yui is originally from Shevat. When Lahan was destroyed, she took the survivors and brought them here, where they have been living safely. She has also explained to everyone that the destruction was not Fei's fault, but rather Solaris's, absolving him of the guilt the survivors initially directed at him. Queen Zephyr meets with them formally and shares information that recontextualizes everything they know. 500 years ago, a few key individuals piloted legendary Omnigears in a great war, including herself and Krelian. Yes, Krelian, the man who now leads Solaris's military and scientific programs, was once a hero who fought alongside Shevat against tyranny. The Queen explains that Krelian bioengineered the current race of surface-dwelling humans with built-in genetic limiters. These limiters restrict mental and behavioral capabilities, making the surface population easier to control and preventing another large-scale rebellion. The surface dwellers, called lambs, have no idea they are operating at a fraction of their potential capabilities. The lambs are not citizens in any real sense, but experimental subjects. Their entire civilization, an elaborate laboratory for Solaris's true objective, creating organisms capable of aligning with the anima relics. These 12 relics were created by what surface dwellers call God, and when combined with a gear, they produce an omnigear of legendary power. Some relics have been found, but they are useless to anyone who cannot synchronize with them. Solaris has been breeding surface dwellers for generations, hoping certain genetic combinations will produce individuals capable of resonating with the relics. The party finally meets Queen Zephyr in her throne room. Despite being over 500 years old, she appears to be in her 30s, maintained by life extension treatments that a select few have undergone. She reveals that Wiseman operates under her direct orders on the surface, conducting missions that serve Shevat's interests. She asks for their help in fighting Solaris and breaking the shackles that bind surface civilization to genetic slavery. Fei raises a valid concern. If they help Shevat destroy Solaris, what prevents Shevat from simply taking over and becoming the new oppressors? The Queen has no concrete answer except to ask for trust, which is a difficult thing to give when so much manipulation has defined their journey so far. Their discussion is interrupted by alarms. Shevat is under attack, its shield generator damaged by a surgical strike. They scramble to intercept the intruder and find Dominia again, the persistent element who has become their recurring adversary. She plans to escape using Maria's gear, Saibzin, a name meaning 17 in German. Dominia shares what she knows about the gear's origins. It originally belonged to Solaris during their research into advancing gear technology. Maria's father worked for Solaris and pioneered a method to connect a human brain directly to a gear's control systems, opening horrifying possibilities for human experimentation. Solaris began transforming surface dwellers into mutants, and if the mutations were stable enough, they would restructure the subject as a gear's central control circuit, creating living weapons. Saibzin was the prototype for this man-machine fusion technology. Dominia is about to reveal more details when Jessie interrupts her, also pointing out that Saibzin would never accept Dominia as a pilot anyway. The gear has selectivity built into its systems, responding only to those it recognizes. Dominia retreats, smug despite her failure, and they prepare for a larger follow-up attack. Gebler launches a coordinated four-pronged assault on Shevat, testing all of its defenses simultaneously. The party splits up to defend different approach vectors, and they are joined by Choo-Choo and Uki, a small furry creature who has been helping since they rescued Margie from Bledavik. Choo-Choo has been comic relief, seemingly harmless, but now reveals a hidden ability to grow to giant size, giving her combat capabilities that surprise everyone. The assault climaxes with the appearance of 18, the German word for 18, a second gear built by Maria's father. This machine carries something of its creator within it, with Nikolai Balthazar's consciousness integrated into its systems, and it deploys an anti-gear jammer that disables most of their machines. Maria confronts this manifestation of her father in Saibzin, and during the battle, Nikolai's consciousness within 18 fully awakens. He recognizes his daughter through the machine sensors, understands what he has become, and makes a final choice. He transfers his mental data to Saibzin, merging with the gear that Maria pilots, and allows 18 to be destroyed, setting his daughter free, while also giving Saibzin the gift of his presence. After driving back Gebler's forces, Fei agrees to formally join Shevat in fighting against Solaris. The Queen provides crucial intelligence. To reach Solaris, they must destroy 3 gate generators that maintain the dimensional barrier hiding it. They know the location of only one currently. She also warns that Ave has invaded Nisan, and Shah Khan's objective is likely the legendary Omnigears sealed there, piloted centuries ago by Roni Fatima, Bart's ancestor. Maria decides to join the party permanently, believing she can help bring peace with her newfound friends. Before they depart, they meet with Gaspar, one of 3 great sages of Shevat. The 3 sages are Gaspar, Melchior, and Balthazar, the same names as the 3 wise men from biblical tradition. Gaspar releases some of the genetic limiters placed on the party members, allowing them access to greater reserves of power that were always there but sealed away by Solaris's genetic engineering. The Yggdrasil is upgraded as well, transformed from a submarine vessel into an airship capable of navigating the skies. They fly to Nisan and drive out Ave's occupying forces, then conceive a plan to not only seize Ave's capital while Shah Khan is away, but also block him from obtaining the Fatima treasure he seeks. Bart leads a team into the mausoleum, where the treasure is sealed. Shah Khan is not there, but the defenses are still active. It turns out the Fatima Jasper that Bart and Margie each carry half of are not gemstones, but rather their eyes, their actual retinas serving as biological keys. The retinal scanner accepts both of them, and the seal opens to reveal the legendary Omnigear of the Fatima dynasty, a magnificent machine that has waited centuries for a worthy pilot. As soon as the seal is undone, Shah Khan reveals himself, having hidden within the mausoleum all along. He sprang a trap, allowing Bart to unlock the gear before attempting to claim it for himself, but Bart successfully bonds with the Omnigear. And even though Shah Khan has his own forces, he is forced to retreat. Bart learns, however, that merely possessing an Omnigear is not enough. He will need to grow stronger mentally and emotionally to unlock its true capabilities. Meanwhile, their coordinated effort to retake Bledavik succeeds. With Shah Khan's forces divided and Gebler's support withdrawn, Ave's capital falls to the liberation forces. They gain intelligence about a nearby gate generator and investigate immediately. At the gate location, they find Shah Khan already there, attempting to siphon power from the generator for his own purposes. They move to stop him, but Graf appears once more, offering Shah Khan the same enhanced power he has granted to others. The battle is fierce, but the party has grown stronger, and they destroy both Shah Khan and the first gate generator. The tyrant who usurped Bart's throne dies with the secrets of his masters, and the dimensional barrier protecting Solaris weakens by a third. With his nation liberated, Bart assumes leadership of Ave. He immediately moves to end the war with Kislev and dissolves the monarchy, intending to establish a republic where power is distributed rather than concentrated in a single bloodline. The people cheer for him regardless, seeing him as the rightful heir who freed them from tyranny. Later, in private, Bart confronts his butler Maison and presses him to reveal a secret that has been kept from him his whole life. Maison finally admits the truth. Sigurd is Bart's older half-brother, a bastard child from Bart's father's affair. This explains Sigurd's loyalty, his protection of Bart, and his refusal to claim any position of leadership for himself. The group reconvenes to plan their next moves. 2 gate generators remain, and they know one is hidden deep underground beneath Ethos headquarters. They devise an audacious plan. Use the giant laser cannon at Fort Jasper, reflect it off the massive mirror atop Babel Tower, and direct the beam underground to destroy the second gate. The plan succeeds brilliantly, though it requires precise coordination and considerable risk. With the second gate destroyed, they triangulate the location of the third and final gate generator. But before they can reach it, they encounter the nanomachine girl from Zeboim, now awakened. Her name is Emeralda, and her memories have been fragmented by centuries of suspended animation. She attacks them, not recognizing friend from foe, and they are forced to subdue her carefully to avoid causing her permanent harm. After the battle, her memories stabilize somewhat. She refers to Fei as Kim, a name that means nothing to him. Sitten theorizes it might mean something like father or creator, suggesting Fei's connection to her runs deeper than their brief encounter in Zeboim's ruins. They destroy the third gate, and with all three generators offline, Solaris is finally revealed, its dimensional hiding place stripped away. Shevat locates the floating capital immediately, and plans begin for infiltration. Their objective is to penetrate Solaris, reach the main generator that powers the city's defenses, and destroy it, leaving Solaris vulnerable to assault from Shevat's military forces. Into the heart of Solaris, where truth wears many faces, Saibzane serves as their transport, powerful enough to pierce the residual distortion field around Solaris and carry them directly to the floating city. Maria drops them in a section where gravity is reversed, one of the dimensional anomalies that makes Solaris difficult to navigate for outsiders. Within Solaris, Fei witnesses the truth of what Ellie and Sitten have told him. Surface dwellers, lambs, labor in factories and service positions, their eyes vacant from chemical conditioning and brainwashing. They have been taken from the surface, told they would find salvation or opportunity, and instead found themselves as slaves in a system that views them as disposable resources. Ellie's citizenship and military rank allowed them to pass through most security checkpoints without incident. They arrive in time to witness a public dedication ceremony where Solaris leadership addresses the population. The government announces that the destruction of the gates was part of their own planned design, that there is no crisis, and the people should continue with their lives without concern. When Fei sees Crelian's face for the first time at this ceremony, another flood of memories crashes through his mind. He sees Crelian younger, friendly, someone he knew well in a different life. The memories show them as friends, colleagues, perhaps even brothers in arms. But before Fei can process these visions, Crelian's gaze turns to scan the crowd, and Fei knows he has been identified. Crelian's security forces move to capture the entire party. Fei panics, making decisions that get them all caught, though Crelian seems almost pleased by this outcome. He orders them held for disposal later in the Soylent system, a term that means nothing to Fei, but causes visible distress in Sitten's expression. Ellie leads Fei away from the soldiers through back passages, using her knowledge of the city to lose their pursuers. They end up at her house, where she lived before joining Gebler. Fei takes a shower to clean off the grime of their escape, a moment of normalcy in the chaos. But Ellie's father returns home and immediately orders Fei out, suspicious of this strange man in his daughter's residence. Fei wanders the streets of Solaris, trying to stay inconspicuous until Titan finds him. The doctor had correctly assumed which route Fei would take if attempting to infiltrate the detention center to rescue the others. Together, they move through Solaris's less traveled corridors toward their imprisoned friends. Imperial officers arrive at Ellie's home to arrest her for treason, for helping surface dwellers infiltrate Solaris. Her father risks everything to protect her, attacking the officers and creating an opening for her escape. She flees into the city's service passages and catches up with Fei and Citan as they navigate toward the detention center. Their route takes them through a food manufacturing facility. Hungry from their exertions, Fei and Ellie decide to sample some of the food products, finding them surprisingly palatable. They move deeper into the facility and find what appears to be butchered meat prepared for processing, though neither can identify what animal it came from originally. In the next chamber, Citan stops them and warns them about what they are about to witness. They should prepare themselves, he says, though he knows no amount of preparation will truly suffice for this horror. They enter the processing center, and the truth reveals itself in its full atrocity. The meat is human flesh. The Soylent system processes people, surface dwellers who came to Solaris hoping for salvation or opportunity, transforming them into food and medicine that sustains the city. The scope of the operation is massive, industrial, systematic genocide disguised as resource management. Citan explains with a heavy voice. This facility serves multiple purposes: human experimentation to create mutants and demi-humans, medical research for life extension treatments for the elite, and food production for the masses. The genetic limiters placed in surface dwellers are maintained through this system, with the food and medicine containing compounds that suppress human potential and keep the population docile. They move into another chamber and see memory cubes, the save points scattered throughout the world that they and countless others have used. All of them are integrated here, feeding information to Solaris. Every save, every recorded memory has been data collection for Solaris's analysis of how surface dwellers think, act, and develop. Further in, they find a submerged omnigear of imposing design, something that radiates power even in its dormant state. Fei pauses Citan here, demanding more explanation, because clearly the doctor knows far more than he has been sharing. Citan reveals the facility's true purpose. It was built to further Emperor Kane's and the Ministry's longevity experiments. 10,000 years ago, humans were born here in this facility, with the first being Emperor Kane and the Ministry elders. The Emperor is still alive today, having survived the entire span of recorded history through advanced technology and medical treatments. The Ministry is technically dead in physical form, but continues existing as digital data. Consciousnesses uploaded into Solaris's computer systems. This facility was built to create new physical bodies for the Ministry, to allow them to return to corporeal existence. But over time, its purpose expanded to producing drug-laden food for the masses, maintaining the limiter system, and conducting experiments on human subjects. The memory cubes scattered across the world serve as data collection tools, gathering information from people like Fei and the party, recording their experiences to help Solaris understand and predict surface dweller behavior. In short, every human on the planet exists to directly or indirectly benefit Emperor Kane and the Ministry. Ellie confronts Citan on his suspiciously detailed knowledge. She demands to know how a surface-dwelling doctor knows classified information about Solaris's most secret facilities, how he possesses top-tier security clearances, and how he knows access codes to restricted areas. The lights cut out suddenly. When they come back on, Citan and Ellie are gone, separated from Fei by hidden passages and security measures. Fei is captured quickly, and when he regains consciousness, he is in an interrogation chamber. They show him pictures of Weltall and the Red Gear, placing them side by side as if there is some connection. Then the Gazelle Ministry appears before him, not in physical form, but as digital projections, 12 consciousness speaking with one purpose. They show him an image of Citan, but label it with a different name, Hugo. The Ministry explains that Hugo is one of Solaris's guardian angels, an elite operative who answers directly to Emperor Cain himself. He has been monitoring and supervising Fei all along, guiding events, ensuring certain outcomes. Leading Fei and his friends to Solaris was part of the plan, allowing the Ministry to claim their bodies for their own use. Though truthfully they admit, they have also been trying to kill Fei because he represents a potential threat to their plans. Fei is called the Contact, a designation whose full meaning they do not explain, and his existence creates complications in their careful designs. The Elders share their ultimate goal: resurrect God, access their source of knowledge called Mahanon, and use that wisdom to build an ark capable of leaving this planet to rule the universe. They reveal that humans are not native to this world, which explains the fossil gap in the archaeological record 10,000 years ago. Humanity originates from an alien world, and they plan to return to the stars as conquerors. The scene shifts to Crackling with Ellie in another part of Solaris. He explains that the incident 1 year ago, where she accidentally killed a group of people during what was reported as a combat drug malfunction, was not an accident or side effect. It was the awakening of her true inner self, a persona that has been dormant within her. Using the nanomachine technology from Emeralda and the Zeboim ruins, Crackling has developed the ability to analyze DNA with unprecedented precision, uncovering information hidden at the deepest levels of genetic code. His analysis revealed that Ellie was once someone called the Mother, a unique individual whose importance equals that of someone named Lahan, the Contact from a previous age. Back with Fei, the lights cut out again. Sitten enters the chamber and says they can talk now, addressing Fei as Id. When Fei regains clarity, he is with Billy and Bart, who have been freed from their cells. Fei attacks Sitten immediately, calling him a traitor, the rage and betrayal overwhelming his tactical sense. But Billy and Bart restrain him, explaining that Sitten helped them escape while also removing the genetic limiters from their bodies, deceiving Crackling to do so. Sitten addresses the accusation directly. He confirms he was sent by Emperor Cain to observe Fei and help develop his body as a vessel for the Ministry's purposes. For that deception, for that manipulation, he apologizes sincerely. But he has been working against his orders, subverting the plan from within, and he is here now to help them escape. He leaves to destroy the final gate generator, and the rest of the group moves to rescue Ellie from Crackling's custody. They reach her location without excessive difficulty, but Sitten encounters problems. Ramsus catches him as he attempts to sabotage the generator. Ramsus seems unhinged, obsessed with finding Fei to an unhealthy degree, his mental state deteriorating visibly. But Sitten and Jesse manage to set the generator to overload before escaping, leaving Ramsus to face the resulting explosion. As both groups reconvene in Solaris' streets, Graf appears with another figure beside him, someone called the Executioner. Together, they begin overwhelming the party, displaying power that exceeds anything they have faced before. Then, aboard the Yggdrasil floating outside Solaris, Weltor begins moving on its own, without a pilot. The black gear transforms into the red gear that attacked them before, the machine that humiliated Ramsus and destroyed their landship in the desert. It crashes out of the hangar under its own power and streaks towards Solaris like a crimson meteor. An explosion destroys the bridge where the party is fighting Graf and the Executioner. When the smoke clears, the party is gone, vanished from the street. The Executioner removes her helmet to reveal she is Miang, and we see the party now safely aboard Bart's gear, being carried away from the destruction. Looking back at Solaris, Sitten explains the terrible truth. The red gear is Weltor in its true transformed state. And Id, the mysterious pilot who appeared in Zeboim, is Fei. They are the same person, different personalities inhabiting the same body. The explosion on the bridge was actually Fei transforming into Id before their eyes, his consciousness overtaken by that other presence, calling in the red Weltor telepathically. Now, as Id rampages through Solaris in the transformed gear, the entire floating city is being destroyed from within. Solaris begins falling from the sky, its systems failing, its structure compromised by Id's devastating assault. The Yggdrasil pulls away just in time, escaping before the massive city impacts the surface below in an explosion that can be seen from hundreds of miles away. Solaris, the civilization that ruled from the shadows for 10,000 years, is gone. But Id is not finished. The red gear turns toward the Yggdrasil, and they realize they are now the target. Ellie goes outside in the Vierge to confront him, to reach the person she loves buried beneath that rage. Id attacks without mercy, gouging Ellie's gear and preparing to destroy it completely. She ejects from her machine and clings to the red gear's exterior, punching it, releasing strange bolts of energy that should not be possible without her gear systems. Her body glows with power that has no rational explanation. From within Id, Fei's consciousness stirs, hearing Ellie's voice calling to him. He fights for control, struggles against Id's dominance, and his will to protect Ellie proves stronger than Id's will to destroy. The red gear collapses, its rampage ended, falling from the sky toward the surface below. Revelations and reincarnations. The story told across 500 years back in Shevat, with both Fei and Ellie recovered and stable. Citan provides more explanation for what they witnessed. Emperor Cain called Fei the contact, the destined man of God who will take the people of the world to a new horizon. Though Cain did not explain why Fei holds this designation or what that destiny entails, Citan confirms that Fei suffers from dissociative identity disorder, multiple distinct personalities inhabiting one body. Since the incident at Lahan, Fei has experienced more frequent and longer periods as his ID persona, and Citan suspects Graf's involvement is somehow triggering these episodes. When Fei was captured by the Ministry, Citan took the opportunity to speak with Id, who is only conscious when Fei is unconscious. Id claimed that Fei is actually the fabricated personality, and that Id is the original consciousness. According to Id, their father Khan sealed Id's consciousness years ago, and at that moment of sealing, Fei was born. This explains why Fei has no memories before 3 years, ergo, and why he cannot remember his times as Id. Fei's personality is emotionally underdeveloped, still forming, which explains his unstable emotional swings, his fits of rage, and his periods of depression. Id also mentioned a third personality, a second Fei that Id calls the coward, who hides from pain and responsibility. This third personality apparently has some influence over Id, which Id resents because it limits his freedom. Meanwhile, Shevat's advisors discuss what to do about Fei. Some argue that he is essentially Graf's second advent, the prophesied destroyer who will bring ruin to the world. Given his destruction of Solaris, adding to the cities and death toll he inflicted in previous appearances as Id, they conclude he must be sealed in carbonite freezing for everyone's safety. Only Ellie defends him, arguing that Fei is not responsible for Id's actions, that the personalities are distinct, and that Fei has shown nothing but compassion and a desire to protect others. But her voice is a minority, and the decision moves forward to freeze Fei permanently. Ellie visits him in his cell later that evening. Fei has accepted that he is Id, has come to terms with carrying the same destructive power as Graf. Graf was originally Lahan, a hero from 500 years ago who sought to destroy God, and if Fei shares that power, then perhaps the advisors are right to fear him. But Ellie refuses to accept this. She unlocks his cell and urges him to escape with her, to run away to somewhere quiet and remote where they can live peacefully without the weight of destiny and ancient conflicts. Just the two of them, away from all of this. As they prepare to leave, they encounter the rest of the party waiting for them. Rather than stopping them, Bart, Citan, Billy, Rico, Maria, and the others have come to help Fei escape. They will not let their friend be imprisoned for crimes committed by a personality he cannot control. But Kralian has anticipated this possibility. He has aligned one of the anima relics with Ramsus's gear, transforming it into an omnigear, and dispatched Ramsus to retrieve Ellie. Ramsus's new machine catches up to Weltall easily, the difference in power between a standard gear and an omnigear overwhelming. Ramsus attacks with fury, disregarding his orders to take Ellie alive, focused only on destroying Fei. The battle is one-sided, and Ramsus easily knocks Weltall from the sky. The gear crashes into the ground far below, and Ellie is critically injured in the impact. As Fei collapses into unconsciousness, he dreams, but the dream has the clarity of memory rather than imagination. He sees himself as Lahan, a painter of considerable talent 500 years ago. He's painting a portrait of the mother of Nisan, a woman of extraordinary compassion and wisdom. But the woman in the painting is Ellie, and in this memory, Lahan shares a deep, intimate relationship with her. Her true name is Sophia, but to him, she is simply Ellie, the woman he loves more than life itself. Fei realizes this is not the first such dream. He has dreamed many times of being different men in different eras, and each time he was in love with the same woman. Sometimes her name was different, her circumstances varied, but her essence remained constant, and in each life, their love story ended in tragedy. Ellie experiences the same dream simultaneously, seeing herself as Sophia 500 years ago, painting alongside Lahan, loving him with an intensity that transcends the circumstances of their era. She too realizes this is not her first such dream, that she has loved the same man across multiple lifetimes. Fei wakes in a nanochamber, advanced medical technology surrounding him, healing his injuries at the cellular level. An elderly man named Tora Melchior introduces himself, explaining that Fei has been unconscious for 3 weeks while his body healed. Citan is present as well, having brought Fei here knowing Tora's expertise with nanomachine medicine. Ellie wakes soon after, and Tora explains more about his capabilities. He is one of the 3 sages of Shevat, who taught Kralian about nanotechnology decades ago. He has developed a machine that can release the genetic limiters placed in humans by Solaris's ancient engineering. His dream is to spread this technology into the atmosphere, freeing every person on the planet from their genetic shackles. To help Fei specifically, Tora provides him with wristbands containing nanomachines that can suppress the extreme emotions that trigger his transformation into id. The technology is not perfect, but it should give Fei more control over his own consciousness. A Shevat emissary arrives with urgent news. Solaris remnants are planning to attack a peace conference between Ave and Kislev, attempting to sabotage the reconciliation process. Shevat is requesting Fei's help to defend the conference. Ellie volunteers to help Tora prepare his atmospheric limiter removal system, while Fei assists with the military operation. Citan will accompany Ellie, revealing that he brought his own omnigear from Solaris, a machine called Fenrir. named after the great wolf of Norse mythology. Tora and Balthazar have upgraded Weltool with nanomachine technology as well, dramatically increasing its capabilities. As Fei heads toward the peace conference, Ramsus intercepts him again in his Omnigear. But the upgrades to Weltool allow Fei to stand his ground, and this time, he wins decisively. The victory is significant not just tactically, but psychologically. Fei proves to himself that he can fight without becoming id, that the wristbands work, and that he is not doomed to lose himself every time he enters combat. Meanwhile, Ellie and Emeralda, who has bonded with Ellie as a parental figure, travel to the Zeboim mass driver facility to launch Tora's limiter removal system. With Citan's protection, they successfully deploy it, sending nanomachines into the upper atmosphere, where air currents will distribute them globally over the coming weeks. Soon after, Solaris remnants launch their mobile surface supremacy weapon, a massive fortress on tracks that crushes everything in its path. It devastates Shevat and Nisan forces, threatening to destroy the peace conference and reignite the wars that have plagued the world for generations. But the party has found something extraordinary. The secret ultimate battleship that Bart's ancestors built and left dormant beneath Kislev's capital. They activate it with the Yggdrasil serving as its control core, and the massive ship transforms, reconfiguring itself into a colossal gear, a machine large enough to challenge the mobile fortress. The battle is fierce, but the transformed Yggdrasil possesses sufficient firepower and durability to destroy the mobile fortress. With this victory, the peace talks resume and succeed. Ave, Nisan, Kislev, and Shevat formally end their long wars, establishing treaties and mutual defense pacts that promise a new era of cooperation. However, Tora's limiter removal activates globally, and the consequences are more severe than anyone anticipated. A significant portion of the population begins mutating, their bodies unable to handle the sudden release of suppressed genetic potential. Panic spreads as newly mutated humans attack non-affected humans, driven by pain and instincts they cannot control. But the truth is darker. They are harvesting the best cells from mutants, collecting genetic material apparently to create what they call the ultimate life form for the Gazel Ministry's purposes, though the Ministry has already been deleted by Krelian at this point. This suggests Krelian may be using the Ministry's old infrastructure for his own Project Noah. The party enters one such facility and destroys an escaped experimental creature, then exposes the Solaris Soylent system to the public. They reveal how surface dwellers have been used as resources, processed into weapons and food, treated as livestock rather than people. They proceed to destroy all the remaining Solaris facilities around the world, ending the systems of control that have persisted for 10 millennia. With the population recovering in Nisan under medical care, the group turns attention to finding more anima relics. They have only a few Omnigears currently, and facing whatever comes next will require them to be at full strength. The first relic they find synchronizes with Billy's gear, and despite interference from the elements wielding their own powerful transformation, the group wins. Meanwhile, the Gazelle Ministry, existing as digital consciousness, attempts to push forward with their plan. They are now in conflict with Emperor Cain over the proper course of action, and they request help from the one they call Mother. Miang appears before them, and they ask her to assist in their coup against the Emperor. As the group splits up to hunt for the last anima relic, Ellie goes to help coordinate medical efforts in Nisan. Ramsus suddenly attacks the cathedral, searching for Fei with single-minded obsession. Ellie confronts him, trying to understand his fixation. Ramsus explains his origin. He was created to be a superior human, engineered to be on the same level as Emperor Cain, designed to synchronize with all the anima relics. He was to be the ultimate achievement of Solaris's genetic engineering. But once Fei was born, naturally possessing the capabilities Ramsus was artificially designed to have, Ramsus was rejected and discarded as obsolete before he was even complete. Ellie understands his pain. He is lost, searching desperately for purpose and belonging. His entire identity built on being superior and discovering he is merely a failed prototype. Ramsus withdraws, morally defeated rather than physically beaten, his obsession revealed as hollow. The group finds the ruins of the first human civilization on this planet, the facility where Emperor Cain and the Gazelle Ministry were originally created 10,000 years ago. Within the ancient chambers, they locate the final anima relic, which synchronizes with Rico's gear, giving them a complete set of omnigears. Meanwhile, Ramsus approaches Emperor Cain with sword in hand. Krelian watches as Ramsus, driven by manipulation and a lifetime of psychological conditioning, attempts his coup. The Gazelle Ministry is pleased to hear that Cain is dead, believing they can now move forward with their plan unimpeded. The resurrection of God. When heaven falls and hell rises with Emperor Cain apparently dead, the Gazelle Ministry moves to the next phase of their centuries-long plan. They prepare to open the realm of God, where they will obtain new physical bodies and complete their resurrection. All 12 anima relics have been found and aligned with pilots, which is precisely what they needed. A massive key mechanism activates deep beneath the ocean. Around the world, people begin howling in pain as individuals predestined by God through their genetic coding start mutating into monsters, even if they had not been affected before. The transformation is selective, targeting specific genetic markers, turning portions of humanity into biological weapons. From the ocean depths, something immense begins to rise. Mahanon, the resting place of God, emerges from where it has slept for 10,000 years. It is revealed to be a massive ship, the Eldritch that crashed 10 millennia ago, now reconstructed and reactivated after eons of dormancy. Solaris as a civilization no longer exists after its rampage, and by extension, Gebler has been dismantled. Nearly the entire population of the floating city has mutated into monstrous bioweapons. The Gazelle Ministry sends these creatures to Mahanon to claim God and access divine wisdom. So the allied forces of the surface nations must mobilize their own armies for this final clash. Before the decisive battle, Fei struggles to express his feelings for Ellie, but she beats him to the confession. She admits she loves him, but also confesses something that terrifies her. There is something else inside her, another presence that is not her, and she fears losing herself to that other identity. She can feel it stirring, becoming stronger. Fei confesses his love as well, then urges her to stay behind for this mission. It will be too dangerous, and he cannot focus on the battle if he is worried about her safety. They kiss, and that night they sleep together, consummating their love with the awareness that tomorrow might be their last day alive. The next morning, Fei gives Ellie his pendant as a keepsake, then departs with the team for Mahanon. Inside the ancient ship, they find logs detailing the Eldridge's final voyage, the catastrophic malfunction when Deus reactivated, and the crash that seeded this world with humanity. They discover a petrified corpse of a giant alien creature, something that was part of Deus's original biological components. The corpse suddenly animates and attacks them, a guardian system activating after 10,000 years. They destroy it and proceed deeper into the ship. Beyond the guardian, they find Raziel's tree, the source of divine wisdom that the Gazelle Ministry seeks. The enormous cavern contains a giant computer called Razel, and accessing its systems, they learn about the true nature of this vessel. There is a large unmanned weapon system and an army of drones stored within, all part of a massive ship that traveled from star system to star system, reigning over the universe as an instrument of conquest. The giant alien they fought was the nucleus of this system. They also learn about Zohar, the central neural circuit that controlled all the systems and the mothership, the golden monolith that serves as the dimensional gateway to infinite energy. But Krelian arrives with his forces before they can learn more. He pilots a gear called Alpha Weltor, a machine that proves overwhelmingly powerful. The party fights valiantly, but they are defeated and taken prisoner. Krelian deliberately does not kill them, explaining they will serve as bait for a larger trap. Instead, he orders them crucified elsewhere as a message. Meanwhile, in Nisan, Margie examines the pendant Fei gave to Ellie and recognizes it as the pendant of Nisan, an artifact from 500 years ago. Combined with Ellie's uncanny resemblance to the painting of Mother Sophia, the evidence becomes undeniable that something supernatural connects Ellie to Nisan's founder. Margie suddenly senses something terrible has happened to Fei and the others. She receives a message from Krelian stating he holds Fei and her friends prisoner, and if she wants to save them, she must come to him alone. She goes without hesitation, driven by love and loyalty to her friends. She finds their gears hung on giant crosses on a hillside, a mockery of religious imagery, and Krelian waits with 2 super soldiers. He orders Ellie to fight them, and despite Fei's desperate protest from his cross, she agrees. The battle goes poorly at first. The super soldiers are engineered for combat, their bodies enhanced beyond normal human capabilities. They push Ellie to the brink of death, her gear crippled, her body failing. Then something erupts from within her. A terrifying power explodes outward, annihilating her opponents in an instant, a force that should not be possible for any human to wield. The display of power is brief but absolute, proving whatever Krelian suspected about her identity. Satisfied that Ellie is indeed the mother persona he has been searching for, Krelian carefully collects her and her omnigear, then mockingly leaves Fei and the group alive. He has what he needs now, and killing them would serve no purpose when he can let them live with their failure. The Gazelle Ministry is pleased with this progress. They prepare to move to the next stage, finally gaining the divine bodies they have sought for centuries. But Krelian stops them. He reveals his own coup has been underway all along. He wipes out their digital memory banks, deleting them permanently, telling them he only needed them to turn the key to open the gates to Mahanon. After that, they were useless to him. Krelian explains he needed Emperor Cain dead, but only Cain could kill Cain due to special protections built into the Emperor's biology. So Krelian created Ramsus as a copy of Cain and spent years driving Ramsus to madness, manipulating him into committing the one murder Krelian could not accomplish directly. All of this was part of his arc plan, Project Noah, his vision for humanity's ultimate salvation. With these words, he deletes and destroys the Gazelle Ministry permanently, ending their 10,000-year existence. Fei beats himself up over recent losses, the failure to protect Ellie, the helplessness of being outmatched by Krelian. Wiseman appears to give him a stern but necessary pep talk, reminding Fei that wallowing in despair accomplishes nothing, and Ellie needs him to be strong now, not broken. Fei rallies and resumes his search for Ellie. Weeks pass as they gather intelligence, tracking Krelian's movements, trying to understand what he is building with the knowledge from Raziel and his own nanomachine technology. They discover he is constructing a massive god ark called Merkava, a vessel that will serve as the instrument of his plan. En route to Merkava, they encounter the elements again, but this time the elite soldiers are not there to fight. They are attempting to rescue Commander Ramsus from Crackling and Miang's mental grip. However, inside the ark, Fei encounters Ramsus first. Ramsus explains his full history, the pain of his existence. He was born from Crackling's nanomachines as a clone of Emperor Cain, a prototype contact persona designed to synchronize with all the anima relics. But before he was even fully developed, before he could open his eyes for the first time, Fei's mother told Crackling there was no need for Ramsus anymore. Fei had been confirmed as the true contact, naturally possessing everything Ramsus was artificially designed to have. From his very conception, Ramsus was deemed obsolete, useless, a failure. His entire existence has been defined by being inferior to Fei, by being the prototype discarded when the genuine article appeared. All his accomplishments, all his skills, all his superiority over normal humans mean nothing because he will never be the contact. Ramsus attacks with the fury of a lifetime of rejection, but the party defeats him again. In the next chamber, they find Ellie mounted on a cross beside Crackling and Miang. Miang attacks in her own powerful gear, and they manage to defeat her, but she stands up afterward as if nothing happened. Her body simply regenerates the damage, nanomachines reconstructing her at the cellular level. She has stalled them long enough for what she calls the Great Awakening. The party's Omnigears react strangely, systems activating without their input. Then they and their gears are absorbed, pulled into Deus along with their anima relics. The god weapon has collected all its pieces and is reconstructing itself. Crackling explains that Ellie was also one of the parts of God, an essential component for Deus's completion. He reveals that Fei and his group have been allowed to operate freely specifically, so they would unknowingly bring all the anima pieces together. Every victory, every relic they found, every step of their journey has been according to Crackling's design. Ramsus enters, demanding to know his purpose in all of this. Crackling and Miang both answer with cruel honesty. He was created solely to kill Emperor Cain, and now that he has fulfilled that purpose, he is just useless trash to be discarded. Ramsus takes out his blade in rage and strikes down Miang. She laughs even as she dies, explaining she was fated to never be able to kill herself, and she is grateful he could end her existence. But this is not truly Miang's death. She is a role, a persona that can awaken in any woman, and she will return. Still enraged, Ramsus strikes down Crackling as well. But unlike Miang, Crackling does not resist, does not defend himself, simply accepts the blade and collapses beside Miang. The group rushes to Ellie, lowering her from the cross. But as they reach her, she takes Billy's gun with shocking speed, points it at Fei, and shoots him. She looks down at the group with cold disdain, and her hair turns purple, the physical manifestation of the change that has occurred within her. Crackling sits up calmly, his wound already closing. He explains his body is mainly a nanomachine colony now, more construct than human, so recovering from damage is trivial. He informs them that Ellie is not brainwashed or controlled. She has simply become the mother of all humans, and this is her true nature. The path to Xenogears. When love defies divinity, Ellie, now speaking as Miang wearing Ellie's body, explains the truth they have been circling around throughout their entire journey. The being behind them, Deus, is what humans call God, but it is really an interplanetary invasion weapon system created by humans of another world long ago. As mentioned in the Razel records, The weapon was designed to take control of any planet it was deployed against. During a test run, Deus went rogue and destroyed an entire planet, proving too dangerous to use. The creators shut it down and dismantled it for analysis. While transporting its core to another planet for study, the core reactivated on its own and attempted to take control of the ship carrying it. The creators destroyed the ship rather than let Deus control it, sending it crashing to this planet 10,000 years ago. The core detached itself from the Zohar power reactor, which is the master infinite energy generator that powers all the slave generators in every gear in existence. The Zohar also generates the ether power that people use throughout the world. Then the core activated its life support system, called Persona, which can create organic material and manufactured beings to help it prepare for eventual reassembly. The first humans created were Emperor Cain and the elders of the Gazelle Ministry. They were originally organic elements in the core circuit that composed Deus's control systems. They were split into male-type elements, called animus, and female-type elements, called anima. Both could merge with technology, serving as interfaces between mechanical and biological systems. The Gazelle Ministry animus were seeking their female anima counterparts, but they lost their physical bodies in the war 500 years ago. They began creating and breeding humans, experimenting with genetic combinations until certain descendants possessed the right DNA mixture to serve as new bodies for the ministry. In short, all of humanity on this world was cultivated to restore Deus, serving as replacement parts for the damaged organic components. Even that would not provide enough biological material. So Crackling was brought in to use nanomachines to fill the gaps and evolve Deus to a new level of perfection, transcending its original design. Fei interrupts to ask why Ellie suddenly knows all this information in such detail. She reveals her true identity. She is actually Miang, the keeper of time and representative of Deus, ensuring everyone stays on the proper path to resurrecting the weapon system. She has existed eternally because every time one Miang dies, she simply assumes another body instantly. All women were genetically programmed to be her potential vessels. Any woman on the planet can become Miang when needed. Despite everything she has explained, she declares her intention to end civilization, to prevent any future creation of gods, and complete her unification with Deus. She and Crackling depart, and Fei leaps after them desperately, but he cannot reach them. Using the giant laser weapon mounted on the Ark Merkava, Deus begins destroying non-mutated civilization while absorbing mutated humans as raw materials for its repair. The weapon system is reconstructing itself using humanity as components, the ultimate revelation of what humans have always been to Deus: resources. The group finds Fei unconscious from his desperate pursuit. Fearing that Id will return and cause more destruction, they attempt to revive him. But when all efforts fail, they make the painful decision to put him in carbonite freezing, sealing him away to protect both him and everyone else. Queen Zephyr shares the full history of what happened 500 years ago, the events that shaped the current era. During the Revolutionary War between surface dwellers and Solaris, Solaris was wary of Nissan's growing military force. Internally, the Gazelle Ministry disliked Miang's influence and saw an opportunity. They made a deal with Shevat, betray Nissan and Mother Sophia in exchange for sovereignty and Miang herself. Shevat accepted the deal. It is a stain on their history, a pragmatic betrayal that Zephyr still carries guilt over. As Solaris crushed the Nissan rebels, Sophia, Lahan, Bart's ancestor Ronnie Fatima, and Crackling were about to die. Sophia sacrificed herself in a suicide run, crashing her ship into the enemy flagship to allow the rebels to escape. Afterward, Krelian, who was Sophia's right-hand man and trusted advisor, completely lost faith in God. He disappeared with the intent to create a God himself, one that would not allow such suffering, one that would save humanity from the pain of existence. And Lahan, Sophia's secret lover, was so consumed with resentment and self-hatred at his failure to save her that he disappeared as well. He sought the legendary power of Zohar, making contact with it and becoming Graf, the seeker of power, driven by the desire to destroy God and end the cycle of suffering. Fei possesses the same powers as Graf because he is Graf's reincarnation, the contact persona reborn. Therefore, he was frozen to prevent him from following the same path of despair and destruction. Inside his frozen prison, Fei dreams again of the days of Lahan. He sees the painter's life in detail now, watching as Lahan and Krelian both love Sophia, but she chose Lahan. He witnesses Krelian's jealousy, carefully hidden but corrosive, eating away at their friendship. He experiences the war, the desperate battles, and the moment of Sophia's death, the shattering loss that broke both men in different ways. Id awakens within Fei and breaks out of the carbonite encasing through sheer force of will. He takes Weltor and heads for Zohar, intending to begin his true awakening as the contact. The party arrives to stop him and witnesses a new transformation of Weltor, the gear evolving into a more powerful form in response to Id's awakening power. Id attacks the group without mercy. Wiseman arrives to save them, and Id mocks him for still hiding behind a mask. Id reveals to everyone that Wiseman is Khan, Wong, Fei's father, the man who has been watching over his son from the shadows for years. At this moment, the inner Fei is shown his complete past, the memories that were sealed away. He had a normal, happy childhood until one day his mother's personality changed completely. Karen, his mother, took him to be experimented on while Khan was away on work. In the trauma of these horrific experiments, young Fei created a personality to deal with the pain, and that personality was Id. Fei's mother, Karen, had been turned into Myung, continuing her eternal mission of preparing for Deus's resurrection. Later, Graf came seeking Fei, wanting to unite their power. Graf had long ago lost his original body, but learned to transfer his soul into others, jumping from body to body across centuries, waiting for the perfect reincarnation of his original form to appear. That reincarnation was Fei. When Graf tried to take Fei, Khan resisted, and when Khan was nearly killed, Fei exploded with power to protect his father, accidentally killing his mother Karen in the process. The trauma of murdering his own mother, even accidentally, even to save his father, shattered the young boy's psyche. Khan sealed away Id and the memories of that event, creating a new personality called Fei to give his son a chance at a normal life. But this new Fei was incomplete, a facade constructed over unresolved trauma, which is why he has no memories before 3 years ago. Now Fei, the persona constructed by Khan, stands between the cowardly original child Fei, who runs from pain and clings to happy memories, and Id, the persona that original Fei created to handle anything terrible. Fei attempts to integrate them, to bring all aspects of himself together into a unified whole. He has the child Fei show Id the happy memories from before their mother's transformation, accepting responsibility for their mother's death, even though it was an accident born of desperation. Id, in turn, shows them the memories of their past lives, all the times Fei and Ellie have met across centuries, always falling in love, always meeting tragic ends. Then Fei encounters the wave existence, the entity trapped within Zohar. It manifests as a manifestation of energy from a higher dimension, explaining how it came to be imprisoned in this dimension. When the Zohar infinite energy engine within Deus tapped into a higher dimension for power, it inadvertently pulled the wave existence down into this lower dimension. The entity has been trapped ever since, unable to return home. The wave existence explains that to reverse the process and free itself, it needed the individual who instilled the unique feature of willpower into it. That individual was Fei in a previous incarnation, a child named Abel, who was on the Eldridge transporting Deus's core. When the core reactivated and tried to take over the ship, Abel came into contact with Zohar, and thus with the wave existence trapped within. At that moment, Abel wanted his mother desperately, and the wave existence responded by creating Elohim. Since then, the wave existence's power went into Fei across his incarnations. Its will went into Eli across hers, and its physical form remained trapped in Zohar. It has been waiting for the unification of all three components so it can return to its home dimension. Now that Fei is here, all he needs is Eli, and together they must return to Deus. But to leave this dimension, the wave existence's prison must be destroyed, which can only be accomplished by Fei. However, Zohar and Deus are bound together, and Deus has its own agenda separate from the wave existence. To free the existence and Eli, Fei must destroy Deus entirely. Outside, Fei finally achieves integration, uniting all aspects of himself into a complete whole. He awakens fully, and Weltall transforms yet again, becoming Xenogears, the ultimate form that represents Fei's complete self. He rushes out to save his father, who has been beaten down by Id's assault. But it is revealed that the body is not truly Khan Wong. Graf possessed Khan's body 3 years ago and has been inhabiting it since, waiting for the right moment to seize Fei's body. Now, with Fei fully awakened and integrated, Graf believes the time has come to claim what he has sought for centuries. Graf explains that when Lahan made contact with the wave existence 500 years ago, his personality split into 2 parts. His destiny as the contact and his will to protect Eli were reincarnated eventually into Fei. But his remaining persona, composed of his rage, his desire for revenge, and his determination to destroy everything, became Graf, a disembodied consciousness that floated from body to body over the centuries. This is why Graf cannot truly make contact with Zohar and cannot destroy Deus directly. He is incomplete, only a fragment of what Lahan was. The solution he devised over 5 centuries was to awaken Deus and destroy all of humanity, reasoning that if all humans are dead, then the cycle of Meyang and Eli being reborn would finally end, bringing a twisted form of salvation through extinction. Fei counters that there is still hope in destroying Deus while preserving humanity, freeing Eli without genocide. The two clash in a battle that spans past and present, 2 aspects of the same soul fighting for opposing visions of salvation. Fei wins the fated duel. As Graf lies defeated, Fei extends the hand of peace, offering reconciliation rather than destruction. Graf, finally at peace with his defeat, explains that he can merge with Zohar temporarily and distract Deus, buying Fei time to reach the weapon system and destroy it. He begs Fei to win, to free all the women who have been trapped in the cycle of reincarnation as Miang and Eli, to end the suffering that has persisted for 10,000 years. Graf disappears with Zohar, fulfilling his final purpose, not through destruction, but through sacrifice, helping the man who is both his enemy and his continuation. The party travels to Kadamoni, the land of Genesis where all humanity on this world was originally born. They find the complete form of the Mother, a fusion of Eli and Miang, both personas inhabiting one body, struggling for dominance. The group reviews their plan. They must destroy the Zohar modifier, the infinite energy engine that powers their ether abilities and gears. Destroying it will also deactivate Deus and its weapon army, allowing them to free Eli. The cost is high. Without Zohar, their own gears will lose power, leaving them vulnerable. Torah explains he has upgraded their gears one final time with anti-nanomachine weaponry, so they can handle Deus's forces. The machines are now called Omnigears, transcendent gears that represent humanity's final answer to divine tyranny. Bart devises a plan to deal with Merkava's defenses and offense simultaneously, but it requires sacrificing the Yggdrasil 4. The massive ship makes a suicide run against the Ark, ensuring the complete destruction of Merkava's weapon systems. A giant life form erupts from the Ark's wreckage, Deus's final form thanks to Krelian's nanomachine enhancements. It releases a wave of energy that annihilates everything around it, reshaping the landscape, terraforming the world into an interplanetary weapon. This is Deus's true purpose, not merely to conquer planets, but to transform them into extensions of itself. The group pulls back temporarily, but not before rescuing Ramsus from the devastation. Sitten gives him a much-needed talk about purpose and redemption, convincing the broken man to join their cause. Ramsus has nothing left but the choice of how he will face his end, and he chooses to face it fighting for something meaningful. As they prepare for the final battle, they gather their remaining resources. They find the lost city where Emeralda was created in Zeboim, built by previous incarnations of Fei and Eli 4,000 years ago. The city parallels modern Earth, a civilization that achieved great heights before destroying itself in war. A cautionary tale of what happens when humanity's reach exceeds its wisdom. As Fei recalls those memories, Emeralda suddenly transforms, growing from a child into a powerful adult form, accepting her past and embracing her full potential. The nanomachine colony that composes her body responds to her emotional growth, reshaping her into the warrior she was always meant to become. They approach Deus's location and navigate past its many traps and autonomous defenses. They reach the core and destroy the guardian orb surrounding it. Deus unveils a gear form of its own, a massive machine that embodies 10,000 years of human suffering and divine arrogance. They destroy Deus's gear form and finally end the Zohar modifier, shutting it down permanently. As expected, their own gears lose power, systems failing as the connection to infinite energy is severed. But more importantly, the wave existence is freed from its prison. However, as the entity attempts to cross back to its home dimension, Sitten notes in alarm that the shockwave from a higher dimensional entity returning home will be catastrophic. The dimensional barrier will rupture violently, and the energy release will be sufficient to annihilate the entire planet. Suddenly, Deus begins to rise, accelerating rapidly and leaving the atmosphere. They can only guess that Eli, still trapped within the weapon system, is moving it away from the planet to save everyone. It is another sacrifice, another repetition of Sophia's final act 500 years ago, and Fei refuses to accept it. Weltor, because it made direct contact with Zohar, is the only gear that can still operate without the Zohar modifier's power. The party sends Fei off with well wishes and trust, believing in him to reach Eli in time. Fei is absorbed into Deus as it rises through the atmosphere, his physical form dissolving, leaving only his consciousness within the weapon system. He is not alone. Krelian is there with his own perception of Ellie, and they confront each other one final time. Krelian preaches nihilism, explaining the suffering inherent in human existence, the pain of individuality and separation, the agony of desire and loss. He argues that God's love is necessary, that merging with Deus and losing individual identity is salvation from suffering. In unity, there is no pain, no loss, no fear, only peaceful non-existence. Fei rejects him completely. He does not need God to love Ellie or become one with her. Their love exists because they choose it, because they fight for it, because they refuse to surrender their individuality even when faced with suffering. The pain of being separate is worth enduring for the joy of choosing to be together. To prove his conviction, Fei defeats Krelian's final monster, a manifestation of the scientist's despair and nihilism, given terrible form. With its destruction, Ellie is released from Deus's control and descends to Fei within the dissolving weapon system. She tells him that Krelian already knew their true feelings, understood the strength of their bond, and released her willingly. In reflecting on everything that happened, it seems Krelian may have cared about humanity more than anyone, seeking to end all suffering even if the cost was ending all individual existence. His love was twisted by 5 centuries of pain, but it was love nonetheless, born from watching Sophia die and being powerless to prevent it. Fei and Ellie agree to return to the planet together, to face whatever future awaits them, to choose life even with all its pain. Krelian saves them from the dimensional shockwave, using his nanomachine body to shield them, then opts to stay behind and ascend with the wave existence, finally finding the peace he sought for 5 centuries. As the game approaches its conclusion, the party waits anxiously on the surface, watching the sky for any sign of their friend. Then they see it, Weltool, with Fei and Ellie safe within, descending through the atmosphere and returning to them. The world is free to start anew, unburdened by ancient gods and their plans, ready to write its own future.